What if I told you that many of the nights when you can't fall asleep have nothing to do with how stressful your day was, but with everything you're still carrying when you turn off the lights? Because your real enemy isn't the world out there. It's the inner noise that wakes up the moment everything becomes quiet. Thoughts you don't release, worries you replay, emotions your mind refuses to let rest. And as long as you keep bringing all of that into bed with you, your body may feel exhausted, but your mind will remain at war. Tonight, we're going to do something different. You're not going to learn how to do more before sleep or add another impossible nighttime routine. We're going in the opposite direction. Because in 11 things you must silently eliminate to sleep in peace, you'll discover that rest doesn't come from controlling your life more, but from learning to let go of what steals your inner calm. Stoicism reminds us of something powerful. Peace is not built by accumulating more, but by releasing what is unnecessary. If this moment is helping you slow down and feel even a little calmer, consider subscribing and becoming a member to continue supporting this space created for mental peace and reflection. And now I want to hear from you. How long have you been searching for peaceful sleep without your mind making it difficult every single night? I'll be reading you in the comments. First lesson: if you are not living your own life, your mind will not let you sleep. My friend, let's begin with an uncomfortable question, one that becomes impossible to avoid when night arrives. Are you truly living the life you chose? Because many times insomnia is not born from stress. It comes from misalignment, from spending the day living according to other people's expectations, and then lying down at night trying to convince your mind that everything is fine. During the day, distractions are everywhere. Noise, tasks, conversations, screens, responsibilities. But when you turn off the lights, those distractions disappear, and the truth quietly shows up. That hard-to-explain feeling, as if something inside you is still awake. This is not random. Your mind is trying to process what you have been ignoring for a long time. Decisions that don't feel like yours, paths you follow out of habit, commitments you accepted just to avoid disappointing others. Your body wants to rest, but your mind keeps talking because it feels unheard. Let me tell you the story of Adam Neumann, the founder of WeWork. You may remember him for building a shared office empire that grew at an incredible speed, and later collapsed just as dramatically. But the real lesson is not found in the success or the fall, but in what happened before and after. Adam grew up in Israel in an environment where a traditional, stable, respectable path was expected of him. He even attended a military academy, not out of personal desire, but because it was what society expected. For years, he tried to fit into roles that never fully represented who he was. And although he achieved recognition and wealth, something inside remained misaligned. When he finally created WeWork, he connected with something genuine: his desire to build community, spaces where people could feel connected and belong. But success brought external pressure, media expectations, and the image of the billionaire entrepreneur the world wanted him to become. Slowly, he stopped listening to himself and began performing a role. And something interesting happens here. The same thing that often happens in our minds at night. When you live too long disconnected from your truth, inner noise begins to appear. A constant tension that becomes difficult to silence. After the company's collapse, Adam stepped away from the spotlight and returned to something much simpler. More human projects. More aligned with what truly mattered to him. He began listening to himself again, and that decision, more than any financial achievement, was what restored his stability. Epictetus expressed it clearly. First, say to yourself who you want to be, then do what you have to do. Because when you don't ask yourself that question during the day, your mind repeats it at night, precisely when you are trying to sleep. Think about this for a moment. How many things do you do simply to avoid discomfort? Plans you say yes to when what you really need is rest. Conversations you prolong even when you are exhausted. Small decisions that seem insignificant, but slowly accumulate into a quiet sense of exhaustion. You arrive in bed with an empty body but a crowded mind, and the mind refuses to switch off, because it senses that something is not right. Start by honestly noticing the situations you accept just to please others. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. Sometimes it begins with recognizing the moments when you say yes while meaning no. Peace can start with something as simple as allowing yourself a quiet evening without feeling the need to justify it. Give yourself moments that belong only to you, moments where you are not performing any role. It might be walking without a destination, listening to music without checking your phone, or simply sitting in silence before sleep. When you do something you truly choose, your nervous system understands that it is no longer under constant alert, and that signal tells the body it is safe to relax. There is also a reflection that may sound harsh, yet often brings deep calm. Many years from now, everything that worries you today will no longer exist. This thought does not create despair, it creates freedom. Because you realize that living to satisfy endless expectations makes little sense in a life that is profoundly limited. That clarity reduces mental noise more than you might imagine. You cannot find deep rest if you spend your days living inside a script that is not yours. But when your decisions begin to align with who you truly are, something changes quietly. The mind stops arguing with you when the lights go off. Silence no longer feels uncomfortable. It becomes supportive, and little by little, almost without noticing, calm begins to arrive exactly where you need it most. In that moment when you rest your head on the pillow and finally allow yourself to sleep in peace. Lesson 2. Everything you need is already within you. We've been led to believe that we're always missing something to be complete, that we need more knowledge, more relationships, more wealth. But listen closely. The truth is, you don't need anything outside of yourself to find the peace you long for. Think of a tree. It doesn't need to grow new leaves every morning to be a tree. It doesn't need fresh branches every day to have value. It simply is, and so are you. You already have everything you need inside you. But if you spend your life searching for it elsewhere, you'll never realize it. Do you really think that all those successful people you admire have it all figured out? That because they've reached the top, they now live in peace, without doubts, without emptiness? Do you believe happiness arrives with a trophy, a full bank account, or public recognition, like a verified check on social media? Of course not. Look at what happens to many of those figures who seem to have it all. Elite athletes who, after winning their biggest prize, fall into depression because they no longer have a greater goal to chase. Actors and musicians who, despite all the fame and money in the world, feel lonelier than ever. Entrepreneurs who have built empires but still feel like it's never enough. Why? Because everything they've searched for externally was never going to fill what was missing inside. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, look within yourself. There is the source of good, and it will flow endlessly if you keep seeking it within. And I tell you this because I went through it too. There was a time when I believed my success depended on external factors. I told myself that once I achieved X goal, I would finally be satisfied. That once I reached my next milestone, I would feel fulfilled. I was constantly waiting, convinced that the next step held the answer. But then, at some point, I realized the obvious. None of those things would change what was happening inside me. If I kept placing my peace in things outside my control, I would never truly have it. That's when I stopped searching externally. I no longer sought validation through work, relationships, or money. Do you know what I did? I started valuing and trusting what I already had inside, my values, my goodwill, what I could offer to others. And do you know how I felt? My friend, words cannot describe the peace I found. My mindset changed, and with it, everything else changed too. But I won't lie to you, it wasn't an easy path, but it was one worth walking. How did I do it? Let me share my secrets so you can do the same. First, I stopped waiting for external validation. I understood that if everything I did depended on others' opinions, I would never truly be free. Second, I learned to trust myself. I stopped measuring my worth by what I owned or achieved, and instead I turned inward to cultivate my values, my passions, and my hidden talents. And third, I started dedicating time to myself. Because the only way to discover that you already have everything you need is to give yourself space to feel it and realize it's all within you. Listen to the powerful lesson Seneca left us. He who worries about how much he owns is always poor. Ah, what wisdom, my friend. Because the key has never been in what you acquire. It has always been in who you are. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you will find the peace you've been chasing for so long. Lesson 3. Short-term thinking holds you back. Picture this. You tell yourself you want to save money, that having a little financial cushion would feel great, but every morning you give in to that $5 coffee. You know, the one with the perfect foam and that little cookie on the side. And no, it's not just the coffee. It's binge-watching that series until 3 in the morning when you know you've got an early start the next day. Or that impulse buy online that, let's be honest, you barely use afterward. Instant gratification feels good, we know that. But in the end, my friend, it comes at a cost. Living only for the now is like planting flowers in soil without roots. At first, they look beautiful, full of life. But one gust of wind, and they wither. What seems to fuel your happiness in the moment often leaves you feeling empty later on. And yes, I know. Life is about the now, but it's also about the after. You can't find peace if every decision you make today sows anxiety for tomorrow. Nir Eyal, author of Indistractable, is crystal clear on this. He talks about how to beat that constant need for immediate gratification. In his own life, Nir sets up barriers. He doesn't keep his phone within reach at all times, he plans breaks, and most importantly, he asks himself whether each decision moves him toward the person he wants to become. Simple, right? Because resisting the immediate isn't punishment, it's self-care. It's a gift you're giving to your future self. So now, let me ask you something you might not want to hear. What would your 5 years from now self think of the decisions you're making today? Think about it. That version of you who dreams of a different job, better health, a personal project, would they thank you or ask for explanations? I know it's easy to think right now, but I deserve this. Just this once. But, my friend, that's what steals your peace. Time to cut those excuses, flip the script. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I deserve this now, answer back with, this builds me later. It's not about stopping the fun, it's about choosing how you enjoy it. Sometimes the real pleasure is in knowing how to wait. Ready to eliminate that short-term mindset? Try this, the delay challenge. Next time you feel an impulse, pause. Delay it by just 10 minutes. Only 10. It sounds small, but it's enough to snap your brain out of autopilot. Picture yourself on the couch, watching a series, and suddenly you crave that chocolate bar hidden in the kitchen. You can almost taste it. But before you get up, wait. 10 minutes. Stand up, stretch, drink some water. After that time, ask yourself, do I still really want it? Or was it just boredom dressed up as hunger? Same goes for that online purchase, the shirt, the gadget you don't actually need but feels essential in the moment. Stop. Leave it in the cart. Step away. Go for a walk. Switch tasks. Disconnect a little. Then come back and decide if you still want to spend that money. Letting go of that quiet, short-term thinking that holds you back is one of the best ways to find peace. Because peace doesn't come from giving in to every impulse. It comes from knowing you're building something bigger than the moment. Like Marcus Aurelius said, life is lived in the present but built for the future. And that building starts with the small choices you make today. So next time that little pleasure tempts you, the one you know doesn't really serve you, remember this. It's not a sacrifice, it's an investment in your peace. One that doesn't make noise but leaves a lasting mark. Lesson 4. You don't need anyone to shine. Let me be honest with you. For a long time, I lived chasing the approval of others. It felt like every decision I made needed an external seal of validation to have any worth. I remember surrounding myself with people, even when I didn't enjoy their company, simply because I couldn't bear being alone. Whenever I achieved something, instead of celebrating what it meant to me, I'd look around, waiting for a smile, a clap, or a well done to confirm I was worthy. It was exhausting. I felt like an actor on a stage playing a role for an audience that often wasn't even paying attention. But one day it hit me. My worth couldn't depend on others' attention. Nobody else could make me shine. I had to learn how to do that for myself. I had to learn how to live without needing anyone by my side. So, let's be clear one more time. Living to seek approval from others is like sailing a boat without a rudder, a boat that gets tossed around by every opinion and every external expectation. It's a game you can never win, like a street trick where the odds are always stacked against you. But listen closely. When you realize that your worth isn't tied to others' approval, everything changes. You start to walk with confidence, making decisions based on what you want, not on what others expect. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop debating what a good man should be and just be one." This means you don't need anyone's approval to be yourself. Your light is already within you, and only you decide how brightly it shines. Epictetus also taught us that true greatness comes from how we cultivate our character, not from external acceptance. It's not about having the best audience, it's about being the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching. And it's not just ancient wisdom, modern science agrees. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden showed that self-acceptance is essential for psychological well-being. He explained that solid self-esteem is built from within. His research revealed that people who rely on external validation suffer higher levels of anxiety and stress. Think of it like this. If you don't turn on your own inner light, you'll always be waiting for others to illuminate your path. But when you learn to value yourself without needing anyone's approval, your confidence becomes a solid anchor, capable of weathering any storm. So, how can you start shining without depending on anyone? First, recognize that your worth doesn't come from other people's opinions. Make a list of your achievements and qualities, and value yourself for who you are, not for how others see you. Then remind yourself of what we all already know. Your worth is immeasurable, even if it takes time to truly believe it. My friend, your light doesn't need permission to shine. It's not something others can give you or take away. You are enough, and you always have been. Stop looking for reflections in others and start recognizing your own strength. Because when you learn to shine from within, no shadow can dim your light. Go ahead, write it in the comments for the world to see. No one can dim my light. Lesson 5. Turn off the outside noise. We live in an era where information bombards us the moment we open our eyes. There was a time when the first sound of the day was birds singing or the hum of the coffee machine. Now it's a notification on your phone, a message that seems urgent but is just a meme, an email reminding you of a task already on your calendar, the latest photo from your favorite influencer. You've barely woken up, and your brain is already overloaded with stimuli. Your mind isn't even fully awake yet, and it's already being invaded. And without realizing it, you go from one short video to another, from one alarming news headline to a meaningless debate, letting the world's noise dictate your mental state. The documentary, The Social Dilemma, exposes something we've all noticed. Social media is designed to trap us. It doesn't show you what you need to see, but what will keep you there the longest. Have you ever gone online to check something quickly and found yourself an hour later wondering where the time went? It's no accident. It's the algorithm. It knows you better than you know yourself. It knows exactly what to show you so you won't leave. But the worst part isn't the time you lose. It's what happens to your mind. Psychological studies have analyzed the impact of this constant overstimulation. Every time we get a notification, our brain releases dopamine, that pleasure chemical that makes us crave more. It's the same system that drives addiction to gambling or sugar. And here's the uncomfortable question. Do you really decide when to check social media? Or are you just reacting to what your phone demands? How many times have you felt the urge to check something for no reason, just because your brain tells you to? Think about that for a second. It's terrifying. If you can't even control when you look at your own device, how do you expect to control your peace of mind? Seneca said it centuries ago, long before social media existed. It is more important what you choose to ignore than what you choose to learn. Imagine your mind as a crystal clear river. Every notification, every scandal on social media, every pointless argument you read is like trash being thrown into the water. At first, it's just a floating can, then a plastic bag, then more and more waste, until the water becomes murky and completely polluted. If you want mental clarity, start filtering what you allow in. Here are 3 ways to take back control of your attention and your mind. First, set limits on the noise. Instead of being glued to your phone all day, decide when you'll check social media and the news. If you don't have control over that, then you're not using them. They're using you. Second, turn off unnecessary notifications. Do you really need every app interrupting you every few minutes? Fewer interruptions, more calm. And the most powerful thing you can do, replace the noise with something that adds value. Don't let your first stimulus of the day be your phone. Try starting with a moment of silence, a book, a coffee without distractions. Trust me, the difference will be huge. My friend, the information will always be there. The world will keep shouting. Social media will still be full of memes tomorrow. But you decide whether to let that noise drag you along or to take control and find your own peace. 6th lesson. Stop postponing what you dream of. I'm going to give you the best advice you'll hear today for finding peace. Cut the excuses and stop postponing your dreams. Just like that, straight to the point. Because that's exactly what I did a few years ago, and I promise you, that's when everything started to change. I had this idea stashed away in a note on my phone, one of those things you write down in a flash of inspiration and then let gather digital dust. It was crazy, something I'd always wanted to do, travel the world for a year. No strings attached, no schedules, just me and my backpack. But of course there was always a, when I have time, when I've saved more, when the moment's right. Well-disguised excuses. Until one day I realized I'd spent more years waiting than actually living. And my friend, let me tell you this, life doesn't wait. That day I listened to a video from Thomas Frank. He shared a rule that lit a fire in me. Start badly, just like that. Because waiting to do it perfectly is the best way to never do it at all. And I thought, all right then, I'm going to start badly. So, I bought the cheapest plane ticket I could find for 6 months down the road. Yep, 6 months. If I made it any sooner, I'd panic and cancel. And if I left it open-ended, I'd never go. So I locked that date in. I didn't know how I was going to pull it off, but I knew that if I waited to feel ready, I'd grow old waiting. The result? Not only did I travel that year, it turned out to be the lightest, freest, most peaceful year I'd ever lived. Because I stopped postponing what filled me up. I stopped drowning that dream in excuses. And for the first time, I felt like I was really living. My friend, I hope this helps you see that you need to quiet down and stop putting your dreams on hold. And Seneca says it best with this line, while we waste our time hesitating, life speeds by. And do you know what steals your peace more than anything? Putting off the things that give you life. Because that's where the balance lies, in moving toward what you desire, even if it's just in small steps, even if you don't have everything figured out. So let's silence those doubts you're carrying. How? First, don't wait any longer. Take one step today, even a tiny one. Don't worry, you don't have to cross the ocean tomorrow. But you can send that message, sign up for that course, say your idea out loud. Because when you name it, it starts to exist. Second, try the 2-minute rule. If there's something you can do right now that moves you closer to your dream, and it takes less than 2 minutes, do it. Open a document and write a title. Reach out to a contact. Pick a date. The action is small, but it breaks the chain that keeps you stuck. And most importantly, write your goal in the present tense. Imagine you want to start your own podcast. Don't say, someday I'll have a podcast. Say, I'm recording an episode today with a special guest. Even if you don't have a microphone, a guest, or even a name for the show yet. This gives shape to what you want here and now. When you choose to move, when you decide to eliminate the waiting and step toward what you dream of, that's when peace starts to make space inside you. So let me ask you, What's that dream you've been putting off that, if you started today, would bring you closer to the calm you've been searching for? Here, you'll find the support you need, because this community is full of people like you, people who've chosen to stop waiting and start building their peace, step by step, in silence, but together. Lesson 7. Learn to talk to yourself. Yes, you heard that right. Talking to yourself isn't just for eccentrics or those quirky movie characters mumbling to themselves while everyone stares. In fact, it's a powerful tool that can change your life. Let's get real for a moment. We've been taught that talking to yourself is strange, a sign that something's wrong, but that's far from the truth. And no, I'm not suggesting you turn into the Joker, wandering the streets laughing and shouting while scaring everyone around you. What I'm saying is this: become your own advisor, someone who's always there to support and guide you. Because let's be honest, if you don't learn to talk to yourself in a healthy way, you're leaving the door open for that critical negative voice to take over. And who needs enemies when your own inner dialogue is already doing enough damage? Let me tell you a quick story. Javier worked for a big company, where every day felt like an emotional battlefield. He woke up each morning with a knot in his stomach, dreading the judgment of his coworkers and the disapproval of his bosses. At work, he felt like everything he did was under a microscope. When presenting a project, his mind would spiral with doubts. Was it good enough? What will they think of me? Meetings were even worse. Minor critiques felt like a storm of arrows piercing his confidence and leaving him drained. Day after day, the pressure and constant search for approval wore him down, like a river slowly losing its flow. One night, after an exhausting day, Javier stayed late at the office. He caught his reflection in the window and, with a deep sigh, did something he'd never done before. He talked to himself. "Why do you depend so much on them?" he asked quietly. "Don't you trust your own judgment? Haven't you gotten this far on your own effort?" In that moment, it was like a thick fog lifted from his mind. For the first time, he realized that his worst critic had always been himself. It was time to change the way he talked to himself. Without knowing it, that night, Javier changed the course of his life forever. The Stoics knew that self-talk is essential. Epictetus said, "What disturbs men is not things, but their judgments about them." This Stoic giant taught us that it's not what happens to us that affects us, but how we talk to ourselves about it. If you doubt yourself and constantly criticize your every move, you'll never be free. But if you learn to calm yourself, to forgive yourself, to allow yourself to be human, my friend, that's when your life begins to change. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic powerhouse, had a practice that's still relevant today. Each morning, he reminded himself that he'd face difficult people, challenges, and moments of uncertainty. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, he spoke to himself calmly, preparing his mind for the day. The emperor showed us that positive, proactive self-talk is a form of mental training, a way to free yourself from dependence on others. Modern science backs this up. Dr. Kristen Neff has shown that people who speak to themselves with kindness and understanding are more resilient and less prone to anxiety. Her research reveals that positive self-talk releases hormones that reduce stress and improve our ability to think clearly. So, as I said before, talking to yourself isn't something for the crazy crowd. It's a tool to become stronger and more self-reliant. How can you start incorporating this into your life? First, become aware of how you talk to yourself. When you make a mistake, instead of saying, "What a mess I am," try something like, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?" Next, practice talking to yourself the way you'd speak to a friend you care about. Use words of encouragement and support. Finally, set aside a few minutes each day to reflect out loud or to give yourself a pep talk for the day ahead. My friend, this habit may seem small, but it has a massive impact. Learning to talk to yourself is a step toward emotional independence. You don't need anyone else's approval if you're already your own advisor and greatest supporter. Because in the end, the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Lesson 8. Are you living your life or the one others expect of you? How many things in your life do you do just because they're expected of you? You chose a career because it was the logical choice. You stay in a job you hate because there are bills to pay. You accept commitments you don't want because what will they think if I say no? And just like that, without realizing it, you pile more and more weight onto your mind until the noise becomes deafening. Years ago, I met a young man named Luis. Since childhood, his family had his future all mapped out. He would be a lawyer just like his father and grandfather. It didn't matter if he was more interested in science, art, or anything else. "We are a family of lawyers," they told him. Luis didn't want to disappoint anyone, so he worked hard, got good grades, and eventually landed a job at a prestigious law firm. From the outside, everything looked like success, but inside, his mind found no peace. Every morning, as he put on his suit and looked in the mirror, he felt like he was staring at someone else. He wasn't happy. Something inside him told him he was living a borrowed life, and that mental noise grew louder and louder with every decision he made to meet others' expectations. Years later, in a conversation, he finally admitted it to me. "I don't think I ever wanted to be a lawyer." And that was the first time his mind found a little peace. He had finally allowed himself to be honest with himself. "The problem is that your mind is trapped in what everyone expects of you," I told him. "The fear of judgment, the need to fit in, the pressure not to disappoint. It's suffocating you. But what about you? What about waking up one day and feeling like you're living the life you truly want?" I asked him to reflect. And reflect he did. Something shifted inside Luis that day. Slowly, he started changing his life. He stopped measuring success through others' eyes and began asking himself what truly made him feel alive. He learned to say no without guilt, to make decisions without seeking approval, and to listen to himself before listening to anyone else. My friend, look around. The decisions you make every day, are they really yours, or are they what others expect from you? Did you choose that career because you love it, or because it was the right choice? Did you stay in that relationship because you love the person, or because it wouldn't make sense to leave now? It's like going out with friends, and everyone orders a beer, but what you really want is a coffee. And even though you don't feel like it, you end up ordering the same as them just to avoid standing out. It sounds simple, but the same thing happens with much bigger decisions. You follow the script others have written for you. Marcus Aurelius left us a lesson that fits perfectly here. Do not waste what remains of your life speculating about others unless it is to improve yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one else is going to live your life for you. When you're alone with yourself, you will be the one who has to face the consequences. What will you choose? The mental storm of knowing you're not living the life you want, or the peace and calm of feeling you're on the right path? The one you and only you have chosen to walk. Because that's the key. If you want to find peace, you need to let go of what doesn't belong to you and hold on tightly to what your soul is calling for. But how do you discover it? In a world where everyone seems to have something to say, it's easy to confuse others' desires with your own. The key is to ask yourself the uncomfortable question: if no one were judging you, would you still follow the same path? If the answer is no, then maybe that path isn't really yours. Change it. Also, pay attention to discomfort. That heaviness you feel before going to work, that lack of enthusiasm in what you do, that emptiness that nothing seems to fill. These are signs that you are living for something that doesn't fulfill you. And most importantly, start making decisions without asking for permission. Don't wait for approval before taking every step. Just move forward according to what your heart tells you. My friend, living under others' expectations is like trying to run a marathon in shoes that don't fit. Maybe you can endure for a while, but sooner or later, the pain will be so unbearable that you'll have to stop. 9th lesson. Do you really need to be this busy? Are you one of those people who, when someone asks, "How are you?" you answer without thinking, busy? Like it's a badge of honor, like being swamped somehow earns you extra life points. My friend, let me tell you something. Being busy is not the same as moving forward. Sometimes it's just running in circles like a hamster in its wheel, giving it your all, sweating, exhausted, but stuck in the same spot. And I get it. I've fallen into that trap too, believing that if I packed every minute of my day, I was winning. More meetings, more projects, more to-do lists. Until one day I realized no, that wasn't bringing me peace. It was bringing me more stress. It's like trying to cram all your dirty laundry into the washing machine at once, thinking you'll get it done faster. Spoiler alert, the laundry comes out a mess, and so do you. Seneca warned us about this centuries ago. He said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And it's true. If you think about your day-to-day, how much of that time is actually spent on things that nourish you, that move you closer to what you want. And here, I remember Matteo. Remember him? The electrician from our story at the beginning. He also thought he had it all under control, that a packed schedule was a sign of success, until his body told him otherwise. And you don't want to get to that point, trust me. It was that very quote from Seneca that opened his eyes. Peace, my friend, isn't found in more activity. It's in the quality of your activity. Do you think Seneca ever said, "I didn't have time to reflect today because I was answering emails"? No, he understood something we've forgotten. Life isn't an endless to-do list. Do you know why being so busy doesn't bring you peace? Because multitasking is a lie, plain and simple. You think you can handle everything, but really, you're just jumping from one thing to another, leaving scraps of attention everywhere. Cal Newport, who's studied this deeply, puts it clearly. Real productivity comes from focus, from doing fewer things but doing them well. He calls it deep work, and trust me, it's not just a trend. It's the way out of that constant noise, and the way to finally make real progress. So how can you cut out the tasks that aren't bringing you peace? First, do a weekly inventory. Yep, grab a piece of paper or open a note on your phone and write down everything you did. Then ask yourself, did this bring me closer to what I really want? Or was it just filling space? Because a lot of things seem urgent, but they're not. Next, try something Newport calls reverse time blocking. Don't start your week by cramming in all your work tasks. No, start by blocking out your rest time. Your moments to disconnect, to breathe. Then fit the rest around that. Because if you don't protect that time for yourself, everything else will swallow it up. And finally, here's a small but powerful trick. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I'm busy," swap it for, "This is my priority right now." And then feel if it's true. Is that meeting, that email, that commitment really your priority? If it's not, something's out of balance. Letting go of that silent obsession with always being busy is one of the most powerful steps toward finding calm. Peace doesn't come when you fill your calendar. It comes when you leave space to listen to what your life really needs. Because sometimes the biggest step forward is to stop, to be still, to breathe, and to realize that in that empty space, that's where real clarity begins. Lesson 10. Rediscover writing. When was the last time you wrote something just for yourself? Not a work report, not a social media post, but something to explore what's inside you. Believe me, writing is like a mirror that reveals truths you sometimes prefer to ignore. But it's those very truths that set you free. If you take the time to put your thoughts into words, you'll be amazed at the answers you uncover. It's like digging up a treasure that's always been there, waiting for you to find it. Writing is powerful, not just because it allows you to express your emotions, but because it helps you organize your mind. Just ask my friend Marta. We live in a world so full of distractions and noise that our thoughts often feel like a rushing river, sweeping us along without control. Writing is like building a dam to calm those turbulent waters, giving you space to reflect and understand what's really going on inside. A study from the University of Texas, led by Dr. James Pennebaker, found that writing about your emotions can improve your mental health, reduce stress, and even strengthen your immune system. When you write, you're not just unloading what weighs you down. You're organizing your thoughts and making them more manageable. Think about that. Something as simple as writing can have a profound impact on your mind and body. You don't need to be Shakespeare. Writing isn't a luxury or a talent reserved for a few geniuses. It's a tool available to everyone. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. The Stoic emperor wrote in his journal every day as a way to remind himself of what truly mattered, to keep his mind calm amidst the storms of life. He didn't write for others. He wrote for himself, as an act of self-reflection and clarity. So how can you start doing this too? Set aside a few minutes each day to write, without worrying about how it sounds or whether it makes sense to anyone else. Do it for yourself. It's a simple act of independence, a way to show you don't need anyone's approval. Write about how you feel, what scares you, or what makes you happy. Use writing as a safe space to be honest with yourself. You could start by jotting down your day, reflecting on what you've learned, or letting your thoughts flow without a filter. Do it without pressure or expectations, and you'll notice how it helps you understand yourself better and release internal tension. My friend, rediscovering writing is like opening a window in a dark room and letting the light pour in. No matter how chaotic your life may be, there's always time to sit with a pen and paper and let the words guide you toward clarity. Your story deserves to be told, even if you're the only one who reads it. So start today. Take that time for yourself and rediscover the power of putting your thoughts into words. In the end, it's an act of self-love and a path to truly understanding who you are. Lesson 11. Put the brakes on your mind. Your worst enemy isn't out there in the world. It's in your own mind. You could be in the most peaceful place on the planet and still feel trapped in a whirlwind of unbearable thoughts. You could have everything in order and yet drown in imaginary dramas. The problem isn't life, it's how you interpret it with that powerful emotion-generating machine inside your head. Think about it. How many times have you obsessed over a tiny mistake until it became a catastrophe? Think of that time you said something that later sounded ridiculous to you. No one else remembered it, but you spent the next few days replaying the scene, convinced that everyone thought it was foolish. I'll tell you a freeing truth. People are too busy thinking about their own lives to analyze every word you say. The Stoics taught us that it's not the mistakes we make that torment us, but the interpretation we give them. Our mind works like a phone full of notifications. Each thought that appears is like a new message. Some are important, but most are just noise. If every time you get a notification, you open it, analyze it, and obsess over it, you'll drive yourself crazy. But if you learn to ignore the ones that don't matter, you'll find the calm you need, and you'll stop being a slave to your own mind. Now tell me, how many of your worries really deserve all the energy you give them? Will what's distressing you so much today still matter in a month? In a year? If the answer is no, why are you giving it so much power now? Think of your mind as a fire pit. Your thoughts are the wind that feeds the flames. A small mistake, an awkward situation, or an out-of-place comment can be just a spark. But if instead of letting it die out, you blow on it, throw in more wood, and fuel the flames, you end up creating a wildfire where there was only an ember. And before you realize it, that small flame that barely gave off heat has stolen all your energy and peace. Seneca was clear. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. So let's make this simple. Don't believe everything your mind tells you. Not every thought deserves your attention. When an obsessive thought traps you, try this. Pause. Breathe and observe the thought without reacting. It's just a thought, not a fact. Ask yourself, does this really matter? Will my life change if I keep dwelling on it? Then shift your energy into action. Instead of wasting time ruminating, use that energy for something useful. Go for a walk, write, do something that gets you out of that loop. And remember, it's not about silencing your mind, but about stopping yourself from falling into its game. Mental calm doesn't come when you stop thinking, but when you learn not to cling to every thought as if it were absolute truth. Lesson 12. Turn off the negative filter in your mind. There are filters that make things better, like the ones on photos. They smooth out the dark circles under your eyes, give your skin that porcelain glow. But then there's the opposite filter, the one that sneaks into your mind without asking, twisting everything to look worse than it is. It's like walking through life with fogged-up glasses, smudged with negative thoughts. No matter what happens, you always spot the flaw, the stain, the thing that's missing. Even on a good day, even when you achieve something important, that filter whispers, "It could have been better." And my friend, that is exhausting. Picture this. You finish a project at work, people congratulate you, but instead of enjoying it, you think, they're just being polite. Or you go to the gym, beat your personal best, but you tell yourself, yeah, but I'm still the slowest one here. You take it to the extreme, even at home. You cook a meal, but instead of savoring it, you think, it could have used more salt. That negative filter never rests. It always finds something to criticize, especially about you. And this isn't just perception. There are studies showing how this kind of inner dialogue wears you down for real. Psychologist Ethan Kross demonstrated that speaking harshly to ourselves activates the same brain areas as physical pain. Yes, literally. It's like giving yourself a hit. Sounds harsh, right? But here's the good part. Kross also found that if we change the way we talk to ourselves, shifting toward a more compassionate dialogue, the brain responds differently. The body relaxes, stress levels drop. It's not magic, it's science. And you don't need grand motivational speeches. Just start treating yourself the way you'd treat your best friend. Marcus Aurelius said it in his own way. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What was he telling us? That your negative thoughts aren't a wall. They're the raw material you can use to build a new way of seeing things, if you choose to. So, my friend, how can we turn off that negative filter? Let's do it together, step by step. First, try the reinterpretation exercise. Every time a negative thought pops up, stop and write down 3 alternative versions of that same thought. If you catch yourself thinking, "I'm no good at this," flip it with, "I'm learning," "Today was just a tough day," or "I'll get better if I keep at it." It'll feel forced at first, but it's like changing glasses, uncomfortable at the start, but clearer over time. Second, play defense lawyer. Defend the good in you like your life depends on it. If you catch yourself saying, "I always mess up in meetings," pull out evidence in your favor. "Last time I shared an idea people liked. I've improved at this. People trust me." Remind yourself, you are not your mistakes. Third, practice uncomfortable gratitude. Think of that situation or person you're always criticizing. Make the effort to find something good there. Maybe it's that coworker who won't stop talking, but always shows up on time, or that gloomy day. But it gives you permission to stay in without guilt. It feels awkward, I know, but it's like finding a ray of sunshine in the middle of a storm. There's always something. No one else is going to turn off that filter for you. No one else is inside your head, listening to that constant noise you allow. So, let me ask you, how much longer are you going to keep letting yourself spiral into the worst version of you? How much longer will you let that voice convince you you're not enough? Because the peace you're searching for won't come when everything outside improves. It'll come when you decide to speak to yourself differently. Start today, quietly, without telling anyone. Just you and this new way of seeing yourself. Believe me, when you change the tone you use to talk to yourself, you change the story you tell yourself. And with that, you change your life. Lesson 13. Take control of your life. Let's be honest. We come into this world alone and we leave it alone. So why the constant need for companionship and approval at every step we take? The Stoics had an answer to this. We've forgotten that our true power doesn't rely on anyone or anything outside of ourselves. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a carriage. Who do you think should be holding the reins? Exactly, you. But instead, you've handed them over to others, to every person you're trying to please, to every expectation you're desperately trying to meet. Believe me, my friend, that's not living. That's letting others steer your destiny. The Stoics understood that living emotionally dependent on others is a form of slavery. Epictetus taught us, no one is free who is not master of himself. If your happiness and inner peace depend on your neighbor's opinion or your partner's approval, you'll never truly be free. Freedom, according to the Stoics, comes from controlling your emotions and decisions, no matter what happens around you. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel the urge to please someone, ask yourself, am I living my life or someone else's? Marcus Aurelius left us with a profound lesson in his Meditations. The man who needs little is closest to the gods. This wisdom doesn't just apply to material things, but also to our emotional needs. If you rely on others to feel secure or valuable, you become vulnerable to the whims of the world. But when you learn to live without needing anything more than what's already inside you, you become unshakable. Like a lone mountain standing firm and serene, unbothered by winds or storms, because its strength comes from its deep roots, not from what happens around it. Modern science backs up these ideas. A study from the University of California found that people who develop emotional independence experience lower rates of anxiety and depression. When we don't depend on others, our well-being becomes far more resilient to life's ups and downs. So, my friend, living without depending on others isn't just an ancient philosophy. It's a proven path to a fuller, more stable life. Now let's get practical. How do you start taking those reins? First, reassess your priorities. Ask yourself, what really matters in my life? Am I living according to what I value or just trying to please others? Let's be clear, this step isn't easy. Looking inward and realizing you've been living for others can be uncomfortable, but it's essential. Second, develop your own value system. The Stoics teach us that living by our principles is what grants us freedom. Define what's important to you, not what others say should be. Maybe it's integrity, discipline, or compassion. Make these your guiding stars. Remember, the world will always try to steer you off course, but if your values are solid, nothing and no one can shake you. Third, learn to say no with confidence. You don't need to give long explanations or feel guilty. Saying no to what doesn't serve you is saying yes to your well-being and what truly matters. Ask yourself, is this my path, or am I just following someone else's footsteps? Think about it, my friend. Life is too short to let others control it. It's time to take back those reins and steer your own destiny. It won't be an easy journey, but it will be the only one truly worth taking. So go ahead, take control, set your direction, and live with the freedom that only those who master themselves can experience. Lesson 14. Don't fight, accept. There are things that no matter how much you want don't depend on you. And yes, I know you already know this. It's the ultimate Stoic mantra. But do you really accept it when life takes something away that you can't get back? How much time have you wasted fighting the inevitable? How many times have you resisted accepting a reality that, painful as it may be, you couldn't change? I'll be honest with you, I've been there too. A long time ago, I went through a situation I simply couldn't accept. Someone who had been by my side decided to walk away, and instead of facing it, I spent weeks, months, trying to make sense of it, searching for reasons, replaying everything over and over again. I told myself that if I did something different, maybe things would change. That if I found the right way to explain myself, everything would go back to how it was before. But it didn't. That constant struggle only hurt me. I couldn't sleep. My mind was stuck in a loop of, what if I had done this? What if I try this instead? Until one day, I realized something obvious. Nothing I did would change that person's decision. It simply wasn't up to me. And yet, there I was, draining myself over something beyond my control. That's when I truly understood Epictetus's lesson. Do your best with what is within your control and accept the rest as it comes. Because true peace doesn't come from trying to control the uncontrollable. It comes from learning to let go. Like a tree in autumn that doesn't cling to its leaves when the cold wind arrives. It doesn't fight. It simply lets them fall. And when spring comes, it blooms again. Learning this changed me completely. I no longer fight what I can't change. Now, when life puts me in a difficult situation, instead of reacting with frustration, I ask myself one question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, I act. If the answer is no, I let it go. It sounds simple, but when you apply it, everything changes. You stop exhausting yourself over things that aren't up to you. You find peace in acceptance. What about you? Have you ever held on to something that had no solution? Maybe you got stuck in an endless argument, trying to convince someone who simply didn't want to listen. Or maybe you keep thinking about an opportunity you lost, punishing yourself over and over for what you didn't do at the time. Or you're still reliving an old offense, as if going over it again and again could make it disappear. The question is, what has that done for you? Has it brought you peace? Has it helped in any way? Or has it just been unnecessary weight you keep carrying without realizing it? Tell us in the comments, what is the hardest thing for you to accept in your life? Share it and ask yourself, would letting go help you? Because often just by saying it out loud, you realize the fight is pointless. And when you stop fighting reality, you can finally start living in peace. Lesson 15. Silence the voice that sabotages you. You've spent the whole day with a loudspeaker pressed up against your ear, but not just any loudspeaker. This one has the habit of cranking up the volume at the worst possible moments. When you're about to try something new, it blasts, "You're going to fail." When you finally build up the courage to say what you think, there it is again. Better stay quiet, you're not that good. It's like having an internal DJ who only plays depressing songs and refuses to take requests. And the worst part? That music doesn't come from the outside. It's installed right in your head. Now imagine Seneca strolling through your mind on a Monday morning. You hand him a scroll with all your thoughts from that day. He reads it for 2 minutes and gives it back, looking at you like, this is a Greek tragedy. You don't need to be a philosopher to see that sometimes the things we tell ourselves are the biggest obstacles we face. Let me ask you something you might never have considered. If someone dared to say to you, out loud and in front of your friends, the same things you repeat to yourself every day, what would you do? Would you accept it? Or would you stand up to them? Because what you tolerate in your mind is often worse than any external criticism. You talk to yourself in ways you'd never allow anyone else to speak to you, and that little by little fills your head with noise. And I'm not the only one saying this. Psychologist Ethan Kross discovered a simple but powerful technique. Talk to yourself in the third person. In his studies, he asked people to replace "I can't" with something like, "Maria, you can handle this." The result? The areas of the brain that regulate emotions lit up, and anxiety went down. It's like when you talk to yourself as a friend, you can step back from the noise and hear something clearer. My friend, if you truly want to find that missing piece, it's time to turn the volume down. Not outside, but inside. The first thing you can do is identify that voice. But seriously, give it a name. Like you're baptizing that inner critic. Call it the downer, the drama queen, or the failure commentator. Whatever makes you smile. When you name it, you strip away that sense of authority it holds in your head. It's no longer some sacred voice. It's just that annoying character we all have. Then every time that voice starts talking, stop it in its tracks with a phrase, one that puts you back in control. Something like, "Thanks for sharing, but I don't need you right now." Or, "You told me that story yesterday, bring me something new." Sounds silly, but it works. You cut the narrative before it turns into a whole movie in your mind. And lastly, use Ethan Kross's advice. Talk to yourself in the third person, as if you're your best friend. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "Buddy, you've been through worse." Step back from the noise, look at it from the outside, and you'll see that voice lose its grip. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." And if you let your mind paint everything in dark shades, you'll end up seeing life in black and white. But if you learn to quiet that sabotaging voice, if you turn down the volume of that internal DJ, you start coloring your inner world with new shades. And there, in that silence you create within, the peace you've been searching for begins to grow. Lesson 16. What you're searching for outside is already within you. Have you ever felt like your happiness depends on something out of reach? as if the peace, security, or love you're seeking is always in someone else's hands or tied to some elusive circumstance. It's frustrating, like chasing a shadow you can never catch. But let me tell you a secret. What you're searching for outside is already within you, waiting to be discovered. It's so easy to get caught in this trap. We convince ourselves that when we get the recognition, find the perfect relationship, or achieve success, we'll finally feel complete. But here's the truth. That emptiness you're trying to fill with external things will never go away unless you learn to look inward. How many times have you achieved something you longed for, only to realize the satisfaction didn't last? If your answer is too many, you're not alone. Trust me, I've been there too. We've all fallen into this cycle. Here's where it gets interesting. True fulfillment doesn't come from what you can achieve or who's by your side. It comes from what's already within you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within, there lies the wellspring of good, and it will always flow if you keep digging." Fascinating, isn't it? How could these wise minds thousands of years ago know something we're still struggling to grasp today? Peace and happiness don't depend on external circumstances. They come from within us. Imagine your life is like a treasure chest. You spend your days searching outside, believing happiness is some jewel lost in the outside world. But in reality, everything you need has been sitting in that chest right in front of you all along. If you never open it, never explore what's inside, you'll live your life in an endless search. Trust me, what you're seeking has always been there, waiting for you to notice it. Think of someone like the Dalai Lama, a modern figure dedicated to teaching the importance of inner peace. He reminds us that true happiness isn't found in material things or the approval of others, but in nurturing our minds and hearts. It's a powerful example that introspection and inner work are the real paths to a fulfilling life. So, instead of running around trying to fill what you think is missing, why not try something different? Spend time with yourself. Pause and reflect on who you are without the labels the world has given you. Appreciate your qualities, the ones that don't depend on anyone else. Practice internal gratitude, reminding yourself that what's essential is already within you. And learn to enjoy your own company, without fear of silence or solitude. It's in those quiet moments of self-connection that you'll discover the peace you've been seeking has been with you all along. My friend, this isn't about giving up on dreams or goals. It's about understanding that you don't need anything external to feel worthy and complete. The Stoics teach us that real strength lies in accepting and appreciating who we are without relying on the whims of the world. Learn to live alone, not because you don't need anyone, but because you know that what's inside you is more than enough. 17th lesson. Connect with your deepest passions. Think about it. When was the last time you did something that truly filled your soul? I'm not talking about that TV show that makes you laugh or the chocolate bar you grab mid-morning when hunger strikes. I mean that one activity that sparks something inside you. We all have something we're passionate about, something that energizes us and gives our life meaning. But in the chaos of modern life, it's easy to lose that connection. We get swept up in family demands and endless to-do lists. But what about us? Are we living for ourselves or just for others? Living without following your passions is like walking through an endless tunnel with no light at the end. Everything feels mechanical and lifeless. Each day blends into the next and the routine slowly eats away at you. You wake up drained, dragging yourself through the motions, fulfilling obligations but not feeling truly alive. It's like being a robot, programmed to survive, not to enjoy. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up excited, knowing you'll dedicate even a little time to something that makes you feel alive. It's a subtle but powerful shift. Suddenly the weight on your chest lightens and your days begin to take on color and purpose. You feel more like yourself, more connected to your essence. That positive energy radiates into everything you do. In those moments, you're living to fulfill your purpose, not someone else's. The Stoics deeply understood the importance of giving life a meaningful purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, "Love what you do, and do it with purpose. This advice doesn't just apply to work, it applies to life itself. When you make time for what you're passionate about, you don't just find satisfaction. You create a life that's more meaningful and full of energy. The key is simple. Stop ignoring what ignites you and start prioritizing it. That, my friend, is how you live for yourself. Picture your life as a backpack you carry every day. If you fill it with things that weigh you down, tasks and responsibilities you don't enjoy, the journey becomes exhausting. But if you leave room for what you love, for those small things that make you smile, the backpack feels lighter and the path becomes easier. I'm not saying you should abandon your responsibilities. Just take a moment to ask yourself, what would I do if there were no obligations? Think about that job you hate or that task you repeat endlessly because you believe you have no choice. You need the money, the bills don't pay themselves, and your family depends on you. I'm not suggesting you quit overnight and leave your family in a bind, but what if you slowly started dedicating a little time to what truly fulfills you? Maybe just a few minutes a day at first. Something to remind you that life is more than just surviving. Something that reconnects you with who you are and what truly matters. Ever heard of Albert Einstein? Of course you have. This genius didn't just talk about complex equations. He also spoke about the importance of curiosity and enthusiasm. He said that true intelligence isn't about knowing everything. It's about keeping the desire to discover and enjoy alive. So, take it from one of the smartest people to ever walk the earth. Every moment you invest in yourself is a step toward living independently, without relying on anyone or anything to define your happiness. Lesson number 18. Truly know yourself. Do you think you really know yourself? I'm not talking about knowing your name, where you live, or your hobbies. Things even your neighbor might know. No, I mean something deeper. I'm talking about knowing who you are inside, your deepest fears, your most authentic dreams, and what drives you or holds you back when no one's watching. It's a challenge, isn't it? Because let's be honest, we often live on the surface, convincing ourselves that those deeper things don't matter. But I assure you they do. Think about it. Most of us go through life as strangers to ourselves, guided by what others expect instead of what we truly want. It's like driving a car without knowing the destination. You can circle around for years without realizing you've never arrived where you really wanted to be. If you don't truly know yourself, how can you decide which road to take? Let me tell you the story of my friend Marta. Marta seemed to have it all: a good job, friends to hang out with on weekends, and a routine that kept her busy. But something in her life always felt out of place. Every night when the house went quiet, she felt an emptiness she couldn't fill. Marta had never taken the time to ask herself what she truly wanted. Her life seemed perfect on the outside: a good job, her own home, an expensive car. Yet she felt like she was acting in a play, performing a role written by others. She'd never explored who she was when the stage lights dimmed. One night, during one of those restless evenings, Marta decided to do something different. Instead of distracting herself with her phone or TV, she sat in silence and started writing in a notebook. She asked herself what made her happy, what hurt her, and what things in her life no longer served her. At first it was uncomfortable, almost frightening. The words wouldn't come. Marta realized she didn't know who she was or what she wanted from life. But slowly the answers began to emerge. She discovered she'd been working in an industry she hated for years, simply because it was expected of her. She realized she surrounded herself with people who didn't share her values out of fear of being alone. Getting to know herself changed everything. Marta quit her job, spent time pursuing her true passion, and felt more alive than ever. Her life transformed from an empty script to a story worth living. The Stoics also championed the importance of self-knowledge. Epictetus taught, "Know yourself, and you will know how to avoid the winds of fate." This means that when you understand yourself and what matters to you, external influences lose their power to throw you off course. It's like having an internal compass. Even in the middle of a storm, you know where to go. When you truly know yourself, decisions become easier and others' opinions lose their weight. You can move forward without needing anyone to tell you what to do or why. So how can you start truly knowing yourself? Take a page from Marta's story. Spend time alone without distractions and ask yourself tough questions. What genuinely makes me happy? What scares me? What things do I do for myself? And what do I do for others? Write down your answers. Allow yourself to feel uncomfortable at first. Self-discovery isn't always easy, but it's powerful. Pay attention to your emotions. Don't ignore them, because they're clues to what truly matters to you. My friend, knowing yourself is the first step toward an authentic and fulfilling life. It doesn't matter how many years you've spent living on the surface. There's always time to dive deep and discover who you truly are. Because in the end, when you truly know yourself, you live a life that's yours and yours alone, without needing to follow scripts written by others. And now, stay with me just a moment longer. The final point is simple, but incredibly powerful. Lesson 19. Stop chasing what steals your peace. Sometimes the more you chase something, the further it takes you from happiness. Maybe you want more money, more recognition, more validation. And without realizing it, that constant race leaves you exhausted, unsatisfied, and far from the peace you're searching for. Because mental calm doesn't come from achieving more. It comes from letting go of what weighs you down. Look at what happens with social media. Think of someone who posts a photo, hoping for a flood of likes and comments. For a few minutes they feel good, validated, but soon the feeling fades, and they need more. They check to see if more people have reacted, compare their numbers with others, wonder if they should have chosen a different photo. And without realizing it, what started as a search for recognition turns into a source of anxiety and frustration. Now tell me, do you really believe there will come a moment when you have enough likes, enough validation, enough success to finally feel at peace? When will it ever be enough? Spoiler, never. This is where Stoicism holds the answer. Seneca said it clearly. If you want everything to belong to you, desire nothing. And no, I'm not telling you to give up on your goals or ambitions, just to understand that if your peace depends on something external, you're trapped in a game you can never win. If your happiness depends on having more money, there will always be someone with more. If your tranquility depends on the opinions of others, you'll always be at their mercy. If your peace depends on reaching a goal, what happens afterward? How long until you find the next goal that promises you that peace that never truly arrives? It's like carrying a stone, believing it's valuable. You hold on to it tightly, take it everywhere, convinced that without it, you'll be missing something. But one day you ask yourself, why am I carrying this? Does it really add anything to my life? It only weighs me down, hurts me, exhausts me. And when you finally decide to let it go, you realize you never needed it in the first place. The problem is that we live believing the next achievement, the next goal, the next validation will give us what we're missing to feel complete. But instead of finding peace, all we do is keep running after something. Like a rabbit chasing a carrot, like a hamster on a wheel. And this is where the big question comes in. What if, instead of searching for more, you learn to be okay with what you already have? Think about it. When you were a child, you probably wanted something with all your heart. A toy, a bike, something that seemed like the most important thing in the world. You got it, and what happened? It made you happy for a while, yes, but then the desire changed, and something else appeared that promised the same happiness. The cycle repeats over and over. And that's how many people live today, chasing things that will never be enough and draining their minds in the process. Do you want to find peace? Then stop running. Try this. Pick something that makes you anxious today and let it go. Don't check social media for a day. Don't seek approval for what you do. Don't try to control what others think of you. Just one day. And observe how you feel. Because true peace doesn't come when you finally get what you're chasing. It comes when you stop running after what will never fulfill you. Lesson 20. Let go of the need to please. Picture this. It's Friday, 9 at night. You're finally home in your pajamas, about to start that series you've been dying to watch all week. You hit play, and your phone buzzes. A message. Hey, could you help me move tomorrow? And there you are, thumb hovering over the keyboard, typing, "Sure, count me in." But inside, you're screaming. No, you don't want to, not one bit. But you say yes anyway. Why? Because you don't want to look bad. Because what will they think of me? Because you'd rather betray yourself than make someone else uncomfortable. Sound familiar? My friend, that's not being a good person. That's selling your peace for a little approval. And the worst part? This doesn't just happen with favors. It happens when you agree to plans you hate, when you say sure to a meeting you don't have the energy for, when you pile responsibilities on your back that were never yours to carry. Every yes you give just to please someone else is a no you give to yourself. Plain and simple. And even if it doesn't make noise on the outside, inside, it chips away at your peace. You know who really gets this? Jay Akunzo, a speaker who talks about creating from authenticity, not from trying to fit into someone else's mold. He says that every time you try to please everyone, you lose the only voice that truly matters, your own. Because pleasing is easy. You adjust, you smile, you say what people want to hear. But staying true to yourself? That takes courage. And here, Stoicism gives us another brilliant key. Epictetus said, "If you want to be invincible, don't get involved in what doesn't depend on you." And guess what? What others think of you, that's out of your control. You can give your best, but you can't control whether they like it, whether they approve, whether they applaud. Trying to is like chasing smoke. The harder you reach for it, the more it slips away. Now, let me propose something. A 24-hour challenge. Tomorrow, from the moment you wake up, say no to one small thing that doesn't bring you peace. It can be as simple as not answering that message right away. Then, when you get to work, keep practicing. Someone offers you an extra task that isn't yours? Say no. Someone invites you for coffee when you'd rather be alone? Smile, thank them, and say no. And look, I know you can't say no to everything, that's not realistic. But before every yes, ask yourself, am I saying yes to this, or am I saying no to myself? Because if it's the second one, you've got your answer. Trying to please everyone is like trying to fill a colander with water. No matter how much you pour in, it always empties out. Because it'll never be enough. There will always be someone expecting more, asking for more. But you do have a limit. And every time you push past that limit just to please others, you drain yourself even more. Letting go of that quiet need to please is like shutting off a leaky faucet in your mind. That constant drip that keeps you restless, that fills your head with, what if they don't like it? What if they get mad? What if they think less of me? When you shut off that faucet, when you decide your peace is more important than someone else's approval, you start to hear something far more valuable. Yourself. My friend, I'm not asking you to change the world, just to stop betraying yourself in order to fit into it. Because right there, in that silence that remains when you say no without guilt, that's where your true peace begins. Lesson 21. Few friends, big impact. Picture this. You're at a social gathering. There's laughter, music, and people everywhere. But have you ever felt a strange loneliness in the middle of all that noise? Surrounded by familiar faces, yet without any real connection, your mind starts to spiral. Frustration, anxiety, maybe even sadness creep in. Believe me, my friend, it's a scenario many of us know all too well. Now imagine something different. Picture yourself with a friend, one of those rare few who truly understands who you are. There's no need for empty words or trying to impress anyone. Just calm, meaningful conversations and a connection that brings you peace. And there it is, another key. Maybe what you need isn't more friends, but the kind that truly make an impact. Let's be clear, quality always beats quantity. Do you think having a large social circle makes you happier or more secure? Hate to break it to you, but it doesn't. In fact, the Stoics taught us that true strength lies in surrounding yourself with people who add value to your life, not in collecting acquaintances to fill a void. Seneca said it best, choose carefully those with whom you wish to spend your time. And no, I'm not telling you to isolate yourself, just to be selective. Think about it. Remember those deep conversations you've had with someone you fully trust? Maybe that evening when you sat under the stars or shared a quiet coffee, and your worries felt lighter because you were truly heard. Isn't that infinitely more valuable than any loud party full of shallow interactions? The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Avoid those who distract your mind with confusion and discord." His advice isn't to reject all company, but to discern which ones serve you well. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, your mind finds calm and clarity. Those few genuine relationships act as pillars that support your well-being, while superficial connections only create noise and chaos. Now, let's get real. How many of the people you spend time with truly affect your thoughts, your mood, and your energy? Don't shy away from answering. The truth might sting, but it will set you free. Like the roots of a tree, some people nourish you and help you grow, while others entangle and hold you back. So choose wisely who you allow into your life, because your connections can determine whether you flourish or wither. How can you put this into practice? First, grab a pen and paper. Make a list of the people who support you and help you grow, and spend more time with them. Second, set boundaries with those who bring only drama into your life. Listen, you don't need to explain yourself or feel guilty for protecting your peace. Do they ever apologize for their negativity? Lastly, invest time in nurturing the relationships that truly matter. Plan meaningful meetups, create memories that nourish your soul, and leave a lasting impact. My friend, less is more. When you learn to value quality over quantity, you'll experience a profound transformation. Your thoughts become clearer, your energy feels balanced, and your mind finds the calm it's been craving. So don't worry about how many friends are on your list. At the end of the day, those few genuine connections are the ones that will truly make a difference. And as the Stoics wisely knew, in the serenity of sincere relationships lies an unshakable strength. Lesson 22. Silence is your greatest ally. There's immense power in silence. I know it sounds contradictory in a world overflowing with noise, notifications, comments, and opinions around every corner. But let me share a secret with you. Silence is a far stronger ally than you think. It's the space where answers emerge that words can never provide, and where your mind can finally find rest and clarity. Think about it. You spend your day surrounded by noise. Not just the traffic or conversations, but the constant mental chatter, worries, endless to-do lists, and opinions swirling in your head. It's like having a swarm of bees buzzing relentlessly. How can you think clearly amidst all that chaos? This is where the power of silence comes in. When you give yourself the space to be still, it's as if that swarm begins to fade, leaving your mind calm and clear. Now, let's dive deeper. Have you ever wondered why silence feels so uncomfortable? The Stoics understood this better than anyone. For them, silence wasn't just about being quiet. It was a tool, a way to conquer their inner chaos. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And it's true. How many times has your mind created problems that don't even exist, simply because you didn't give it a moment of calm to sort itself out? It's like trying to see your reflection in a disturbed lake. The image will never be clear. But when the water settles, that's when you truly see. Marcus Aurelius knew this too. He took moments of silence amidst political and personal battles because he understood that a noisy mind is a weak mind. Silence was his mental armor, his way of staying strong and focused. So, my friend, embracing silence isn't just a philosophical whim, it's a life strategy. Here's an interesting fact. Recent studies have shown that silence has concrete benefits for the brain. Researchers at Finland's National Institute of Health found that 2 hours of silence a day can stimulate the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus, the area linked to memory and emotions. See? Silence isn't just a pause, it's an investment in your mental well-being. Think about it. If you're always surrounded by noise, you'll never have the space to truly listen to your own thoughts, your real needs and desires. Learn to carve out moments of silence, a walk without music, a quiet time at home with the TV off, or even a few minutes of calm breathing. In those moments, you'll find the clarity you've been searching for. You don't need anything or anyone to experience the power of silence. It's always there, waiting for you to embrace it. The next time life feels overwhelming, don't seek more noise, more distractions. Seek silence. Let it be your refuge, your source of calm and strength. Because in the end, silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the space where everything becomes clear and where you can finally hear what your heart has been trying to tell you. Lesson 23. Happiness is not where you think. If you believe happiness is in the next achievement, get ready to be chasing it forever. That promotion, that new car, that bigger house. And what happens when you finally get it? Let me reveal the truth. The excitement lasts just a moment, and suddenly you're already looking for the next goal. It's like running on a hamster wheel. You keep moving, but you never actually get anywhere. Psychologists call this the happiness paradox. Professor Sam Maglio from the University of Toronto explains that constantly striving to be happy is actually counterproductive. It's exhausting. It weakens our self-control and drains our willpower. In other words, the more you chase happiness, the more it slips away. Ironic, isn't it? Happiness is best achieved when pursued indirectly. It is a side effect of living with purpose and gratitude, said Maglio. The problem is that we chase society's idea of success without asking ourselves what truly fulfills us. That's how we fall into the trap of working tirelessly toward a goal that, in the end, leaves us feeling just as empty as when we started. And what do our Stoic friends say about this? Marcus Aurelius put it simply: if you seek happiness in external things, you will always be their slave. End of story. He was more direct than modern psychologists, but just as accurate. What does this mean? If your happiness depends on a promotion, a relationship, or the approval of others, you will never be free. You will always be chained to what you cannot control. Think of it this way. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. You run after it with all your might. It feels like you're just about to reach it. But no matter how fast you go, it always stays one step ahead. That's the trap of searching for happiness in external things. It never arrives. And worse, it fills you with anxiety, frustration, and steals your peace. So how do you break this cycle? How do you stop seeking happiness in external things and find real calm? Here are 3 Stoic keys to achieving it. The first trick is to make happiness depend on you. Epictetus put it perfectly. Happiness and freedom begin with the clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and others are not. What is in your control? Your attitude, your gratitude, the way you live in the present. Nothing else. Shift your focus from acquiring to appreciating. Ask yourself, do you really need more to be happy? Or do you just need to learn to value what you already have? Think of this saying: whoever does not appreciate a single flower will not appreciate a bouquet. If you can't find joy in the small things, you won't find it in the big things either. And the hardest thing to do in today's world: slow down. The noise around you makes you believe you always need to be chasing the next goal. But peace isn't about having the most followers, the most money, or the most external success. Peace is in stopping, breathing, and realizing that you don't need to rush. You're already where you need to be. You just have to see it. Listen to what Seneca said: no one is poor who is satisfied with what they have. So stop chasing shadows and start living in the light of the present. Happiness isn't in the next success nor in the next achievement. It's in every moment you choose to stop, look around, and realize that you already have everything you need to be at peace. Lesson 24. Let go of the guilt that weighs you down. Let me tell you a story. A group of travelers is making its way through a dense forest. They've been walking all day, and as night falls, they light a campfire. They gather around it, share food, tell stories, and the flames light up their tired but content faces. One by one, the travelers stand up and continue on their journey. The fire burns low, the embers cool, the flames complete their cycle. Everyone moves on, except one. One traveler stays behind, sitting there in front of the ashes. He stares at the dying embers, touches them, blows on them, trying to reignite the flames. He refuses to accept that the fire is out. He believes that if he stays there long enough, if he punishes himself a bit more, maybe the fire will return. But the forest waits. The path moves forward, and he stays stuck, trapped in what's already gone. That's what guilt is. Staying beside a fire that's already gone out, convinced that if you suffer enough, if you punish yourself a little more, maybe the flames will come back. But no, my friend, the flames won't return. The fire did its job and burned out. Now, the only thing left to do is move on. Think about it. How many times have you done the same to yourself? You stayed stuck beside a mistake, a failure, a word you shouldn't have said, going over it again and again, trying to relive something that can't be changed. Like that time you canceled on a friend because you were exhausted. And even though they told you it was fine, you carried that weight for days, as if that guilt could somehow fix it. Marcus Aurelius, who knew a thing or two about carrying responsibility, wrote, "Loss is nothing but change, and change is nature's delight." If he could see you, my friend, sitting there blowing on the ashes of something long gone, he'd probably tell you, get up, keep moving. Life doesn't wait. And it's not just me saying this. Lori Gottlieb, psychotherapist and author of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, explains how many people get stuck in the past because they believe that letting go of guilt is like saying what happened was okay. But no, letting go of guilt isn't about forgiving the mistake. It's about accepting that it happened, learning from it, and moving forward. She suggests something simple but powerful. Close the cycle. How do you close it? First, write down what you did. Whatever it is that still weighs on you. Be honest, no sugarcoating. Second, write down what you learned from that experience. Even if it hurts, there's always a lesson. And third, write what you'll do differently if you find yourself in a similar situation again. When you're done, tear up that paper. That's it. It's a ritual to remind yourself that the fire has already served its purpose. Here's another powerful tool: reverse visualization. Imagine the worst thing that could happen if you let go of that guilt. What happens if you stop punishing yourself? Spoiler: nothing. The world keeps turning, the forest keeps growing, and you get to walk on a little lighter. One last step. Be grateful for the lesson, not for the mistake, but for what it taught you. Because believe it or not, everything you've been through has made you stronger, wiser. Guilt doesn't fix anything, it just repeats the pain. But when you let go of that stone, you realize something freeing. You could have walked lighter all along, you just hadn't given yourself permission. And when you choose to move on quietly, without fanfare, leaving that weight behind, peace finds its way back to you. Now tell us in the comments, what guilt are you ready to let go of today so you can walk lighter? This is a community that doesn't judge. We all carry stones in our backpacks, but here, together, we learn how to leave them behind. Lesson number 25. Peace is not found, it is built. Many people think that inner peace is something that just appears one day, that taking a couple of days off and traveling somewhere quiet will be enough to leave their problems behind. But let me tell you a well-known secret. Peace is not a button you press to make everything calm down, nor a destination you reach where your mind and body suddenly feel lighter. It doesn't work that way. Peace is something you build every single day. Imagine your mind as a house. If you never clean it, if you don't repaint it or fix the leaks, what do you think will happen? It will become unlivable. But if you take the time to maintain it, it will be a refuge for life. Your inner peace works the same way. It's not something external that will arrive when you have more money, when you reach this year's big goal, or when life finally becomes perfect. Because tell me, how many times have you thought you would finally be at peace once you achieved something, only to realize that your mind was still restless? My friend, peace comes when you stop searching for it and start doing something about it. You've surely experienced this before. You rush through your day running from one thing to another. You tell yourself that once you finish work, once you get home, once you finally sit on the couch, you'll be calm. But when you get there, your mind is still racing. You check your phone, scroll through social media, turn on the TV without really watching. You expected peace to come on its own, but it didn't. And that's where the mistake lies. Calm doesn't come just because you finished something. It comes when you actively make space for it. Think of a pot of boiling water. If you keep turning up the heat, if you keep stirring aggressively, it will never settle. But if you turn off the heat and let it sit, the water will naturally return to stillness. Peace works the same way. It's not about forcing it, it's about stopping the things that fuel the chaos. Seneca understood this well. He who is always busy has no time to be free. And what is peace, if not a form of freedom? I know it's hard, life is overwhelming, and we all rush around like headless chickens. But believe me, it's possible. And here's how. Start by filtering what enters your mind. Just as you wouldn't leave trash in your home. Why do you allow the world's noise to clutter your thoughts? Peace is built by consciously choosing where to focus your attention. Learn to be alone with your thoughts. Many people avoid silence because it makes them uncomfortable. But if you can't be at peace with yourself, how do you expect to find tranquility in the world? And here's the key. Change how you respond to life. You can't stop problems from happening, but you can stop them from controlling you. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to us that affects us, but how we interpret what happens to us. Peace is not a gift from fate. It's the result of what you do every day. If you don't cultivate it, it won't appear on its own. Don't wait for it, build it. And now that you know peace doesn't just magically show up, let me reveal one final secret. Too many people spend their lives waiting for someone or something to give them the tranquility, happiness, and security they long for. But, my friend, that's never going to happen. Stay with me just a little longer, and I'll tell you why. Lesson 26. Stop playing the victim. Let me ask you something. Do you still say things like, "It's just impossible with my boss"? Or maybe you drop a, "With this family, there's no way to live in peace"? Don't worry, my friend. I used to do it too. Playing the victim is comfortable, cozy even. Like that old blanket that doesn't warm you anymore but is hard to let go of. It gives us an excuse, a reason to stay put, to avoid taking risks. But let me tell you something. The comfort of playing the victim comes at a price, and it's not cheap. You pay with your freedom, with your peace, because as long as you keep pointing the finger outward, the real problem will stay right there, inside. Think about that moment when you didn't apply for the promotion you wanted. You said, "What's the point? I already know how the system works." But was it really the system? Or was it fear disguised as resignation? Because it's easier to blame the boss, the government, the weather, than to look inside and admit that maybe, just maybe, you lacked the courage to act. Epictetus, who knew more about this than anyone, said, "Don't expect the world to be fair. Focus on being virtuous yourself." And he wasn't saying that from the comfort of an office chair, trust me. This was a man who was born a slave, who knew suffering firsthand, who had been beaten down by life and by men. Imagine him telling fate, "Not today, I'm too sore to suffer." But my friend, the man didn't even have full use of his leg. That wasn't an option, because Epictetus understood that he couldn't control what happened to him, but he could control how he responded. And in that response was his freedom. So do you want to know how to break out of that victim mode? I'm not going to give you the typical think positive line. I know that's not enough. Let's get practical, something you can do today, quietly, without announcing it to the world. Just for you. Start with your body. Sounds silly? I'm telling you, it's not. When you're in victim mode, pay attention to how you hold yourself. Slumped shoulders, eyes downcast. Change it. Pull your shoulders back. Open up your chest. Take a deep breath. Your body reacts before your mind does. Change your posture, and you'll feel your energy shift. Next, make a list of the excuses you use, the phrases you repeat without even realizing. That's just how it's always been. I can't. It's too late. Write them all down and look them straight in the eye. Now, Erase them. Literally. Cross them out with a marker. Scribble over them until you can't read them anymore. And then, don't leave the list empty. Replace those phrases with ones that push you forward. If you used to say, "I can't," swap it for, "I'm going to try my way." If you said, "It's too late," change it to, "It's never too late if I start today." It might sound simple, but those little phrases shape the way you see your life. And if you ever doubt, remember this. You can't choose what happens, but you can choose not to sit on the sidelines watching your life from the stands. What if you stepped onto the field? You might not control the scoreboard, but at least you're playing. And playing, my friend, is what gives you back control. You've got to quiet that inner voice telling you that you can't, that it's not your fault, that the world is unfair. Eliminate that victim role, quietly, without making noise. And you'll see how, little by little, that peace you've been searching for starts to break through. Because no one's going to give you permission to take the reins. Only you can do that. Lesson 27. You are enough. Let me say this loud and clear, so there's no room for doubt. You are enough. You don't need anyone's approval or impossible standards to prove your worth. Society has convinced you that you're not, that you're missing something. More success, more beauty, more recognition. But my friend, let's be honest. All of that is an illusion. What truly matters is learning to see yourself as valuable, just as you are, without needing someone to praise or applaud you at every step. How many times have you felt like you're not good enough? Maybe after scrolling through social media, comparing yourself to someone who seems to have it all. But here's the truth. You already have everything you need within you. Listen carefully. There's nothing more exhausting than fighting against a version of yourself that you think isn't good enough. Learn to embrace your worth right here and now, because peace comes when you realize you don't have to change to be deserving of respect and love. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught us to stop relying on others' opinions to feel valuable. If you keep searching for validation outside yourself, you'll never truly be free. But when you recognize your own worth, you feel a peace that no one and nothing can take away. If you doubt your value, you'll always feel like something is missing. But when you start to rewrite that internal narrative, when you tell yourself that you are already enough, everything changes. It's like clearing a dark, cloudy sky to let the sunlight in. Your perspective brightens, and everything becomes clearer. Now think about this. Do you believe that those who seem to have it all, celebrities you see on TV or influencers with millions of followers, don't deal with the same insecurities? The truth is, behind those perfect images are doubts and moments of feeling inadequate. No matter how perfect a life may appear from the outside, everyone faces the same internal battle. Trust me, even that famous person you admire for their looks or wealth is on their own journey toward self-acceptance. That journey, my friend, becomes shorter when you start looking at yourself with more compassion. When you make a mistake, don't punish yourself. Understand that you're human and worthy just as you are. Celebrate your small victories and acknowledge the qualities that make you unique. Shift your perspective. Imagine you're a lighthouse in a storm, shining brightly not because the storm allows it, but because that's your nature. There's no specific moment in life when someone else will grant you the title of enough. It's something you have to give yourself. So stop searching for approval in places where you'll never find it, and repeat after me. I am enough, even on my darkest days. Lesson 28. What you own owns you. Have you ever heard of the rat race? No, I'm not talking about an actual race where rats compete to be the fastest. I'm talking about the trap we all fall into when we believe that having more will make us happier. The famous, when I have more money, a bigger house, the car I've always wanted, then finally I'll be happy. I'll live peacefully and stress-free. Let me say this as clearly as I can. What a massive lie. And the worst part? For a moment it seems to work. But that feeling never lasts. Because the more you have, the more you worry about losing it. The peace you expected to find turns into anxiety. Think about the last time you saved up for something you really wanted. Maybe it was that car you dreamed of for years, At first you loved it, but little by little you started worrying more about protecting it than enjoying it. You parked far away to avoid scratches, got nervous every time someone touched it, even avoided certain routes to keep it from getting dirty. The thing you bought to make you feel better ended up stealing your peace. Ironic, isn't it? The same thing happens with everything material. You think you're gaining something, but what you're really gaining is a new source of stress. Epictetus made it clear centuries ago, the rich man is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. Because, my friend, believe me, calm isn't found in accumulating more, but in learning to need less. It's like being chained with golden shackles. They shine, they catch attention, they seem like a symbol of success. But at the end of the day, they're still chains. Ties that keep you living in fear. Fear of losing what you have. Fear of someone taking it from you. Fear that it will never be enough. And that will never allow you to be at peace. If you truly want calm, start breaking free from this illusion today. It's not about giving up everything, it's about not clinging to it. It's about not letting the fear of losing what you have steal your peace. Here are some lessons from the Stoics. They would deliberately go through periods of living without their possessions, without food, without hot water, without shelter. And no, it wasn't some act of self-punishment. It was a way to remind themselves that they could live with the bare minimum. Now, I'm not asking you to sleep under a bridge, but you can start with something small. Go a day without something you think is essential. Maybe your phone, maybe that object you value so much, or even the urge to buy something new. Observe whether you actually need it or if you've just created a false dependency. Another useful trick: question every purchase. Before you buy something new, ask yourself, do I really need this? Or is it just another trap in the rat race? And finally, train your mind to understand that you don't need more. Repeat this idea: my happiness doesn't depend on what I have, but on who I am. Because real freedom isn't measured by what you own. It's measured by how much you can let go without fear. If you keep holding on to the belief that material things will bring you peace, you're only building a golden prison. It may look nice from the outside, but it's still a prison. And the door is open, you just have to decide to walk out. Lesson 29. If you want calm, make room for it. You can't find tranquility if your life is pure noise. Yet there you are, waking up with your phone in hand, checking notifications before you've even had a single thought of your own. Then, the day rushes by. Obligations, screens, emails, endless tasks. And when night falls, you wonder why your mind is exhausted. The problem isn't that the world is chaotic, it's that you don't make space for calm. Think about Epictetus. He was born a slave in Rome. He had no control over his life, his time, or even his own body. His days began with orders and mistreatment and ended the same way. Maybe he woke up to the sound of his master demanding he get up instantly. Maybe he spent hours standing, serving others, listening to conversations that didn't interest him, with no right to decide what to do with his life. But do you know what? He still found peace. How is that possible? A mistreated slave, someone who had no say in what he did, when, or how, was able to remain calm and find inner peace every single day. Ah, yes, my friend, that is the magic of Stoicism. Epictetus focused on the only thing that truly belonged to him, his mind. Whenever he could, he would step away from the noise and close his eyes to reflect. It didn't matter how exhausting his day was, who was yelling at him, whether he was locked up or sleeping on the floor. He always found a moment to connect with himself. Inspiring, isn't it? Now tell me, if someone who was a slave could find ways to make space for peace, what's your excuse? The social media you just can't stop checking? The job that drains you? The kids who don't give you a second of free time? Don't get me wrong. I know all those things are real and important. I'm not saying you don't have responsibilities or that it's easy. I just want you to realize that no matter the situation, it's possible to find peace. The difference is whether you choose to or whether you keep letting the noise sweep you away. Think of a messy room filled with things scattered on the floor. Clothes piled on chairs, papers spread everywhere, objects stacked in every corner. You try to move, but you trip over everything. You feel like there's no space to breathe, like every step is uncomfortable. Now imagine that instead of a room, it's your mind that looks like this. When your day is overloaded with stimuli, when you don't give yourself a break, not even a single minute to be alone with yourself, it's like living in that cluttered room. Every notification, every worry, every unfinished task is another object thrown on the floor. And your peace of mind? It's trying to find its way through all that mess. But there's no space. Not because calm isn't possible, but because you haven't made room for it. So, like Epictetus, start making space for calm. Start your day without external noise. Instead of grabbing your phone the moment you wake up, give yourself 10 minutes without screens. Observe how you feel. What thoughts come up without interference? Epictetus didn't have distractions from technology. His reality was much harsher, yet he still found a way to begin his day in peace. Find a moment for absolute silence. It doesn't have to be an hour of meditation, just 5 minutes of real disconnection. Epictetus found these moments at night, locked away. You can find 5 minutes too. It's just a matter of commitment. Clear out what you don't need. Just like a room filled with unnecessary objects, your mind needs space. Ask yourself, how many useless thoughts, unnecessary worries, and distractions are taking up space in my head? Do a mental cleanup. Epictetus did it by letting go of attachments to things he couldn't control. You can do the same, because peace doesn't appear magically. It's something you build day by choosing to make space for it. Lesson 30. Eliminate the fear of being alone. I'm sure you've felt this before. You get home, close the door, and the first thing you do is turn on the TV, play some music, or open up social media. Like the silence is just too heavy. No, it's not a coincidence. Being alone with yourself in silence is sometimes more uncomfortable than standing in an elevator packed with strangers. And when you don't want to hear what's going on inside, you'll do anything to fill that void with noise. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when I didn't know how to be alone. And I don't mean spending an afternoon at home without plans. I mean that feeling of needing someone with me at all times, even just to go grocery shopping. I'd hit up the supermarket and needed someone to come along. I made plans with friends every day, even when I didn't really feel like it. I thought I was super social, the one always organizing things. But no, my friend, that wasn't the reason. The truth was, I couldn't stand being alone with myself. Because in that silence, the insecurities I'd been covering up with noise started to show. The fear of not being enough, the doubts I'd been burying under distractions. And the strangest thing, the more I avoided being alone, the further I drifted from myself. I'm sharing this because I think it might help you too, because it wasn't something that changed overnight. No, my friend, learning to embrace solitude doesn't come with a manual. At first, I forced myself to do small things alone, even though it felt uncomfortable. Taking a walk without my phone, without headphones, sitting in a cafe and instead of staring at my screen, just looking out the window. I felt awkward, out of place. But little by little, that silence that used to feel so uncomfortable started to feel like home. And you know what happened? I discovered something. The more time I spent with myself, the less I needed to fill that space with others. If you really want to find the peace we've been talking about today, you've got to eliminate that need to run from yourself. Turning down the external noise isn't enough if you don't learn how to sit with the internal silence. As Ryan Holiday says, silence isn't something that needs to be filled. It's a sacred space where you can finally listen to yourself. But of course, you've got to be willing to stay there. Marcus Aurelius had this figured out, as if he knew that centuries later we'd still be doing the same thing, running from ourselves. He wrote it down, almost like a direct piece of advice for you and me. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He knew, if you don't learn how to be with yourself, you'll end up filling your calendar with people, with activities, with plans, but never with you. And that, my friend, is like always having a house full of guests, but with the lights off inside. So now, my friend, I want to offer you something. The next time you feel that urge to seek company just so you're not alone, pause, stay, step outside, but step outside with yourself. Go to the movies alone, take a long walk, sit at a cafe, no phone, no distractions. Yeah, I know. It'll feel weird at first, like something's missing, but stay with it. Ride out that awkward pull. Because right past that discomfort, something deeper waits. Reconnection with yourself. What helped me too was changing the words I used. I stopped saying, "I'm alone," and started saying, "I'm spending time with myself." Sounds like nothing, but it's not. Changing your words changes your experience. Suddenly it wasn't a punishment. It was a gift. A moment just for me. And if you want to take it one step further, try this. Every time you're sitting quietly with yourself, ask, "What do I need from me right now?" Not to fix it on the spot, just to start really listening. Now you know. If you want to let go of that invisible weight keeping you from peace, start by stopping the escape from yourself. The fear of solitude isn't about being without others. It's about fearing what you'll find when you're with you. But when you dare to stay in that silence, you discover something. You've never been more accompanied. And in that moment, when you no longer need anyone else to fill your space, the noise dies down. And there, real peace begins. My friend, we've covered a lot, I know, but there's still one more thing left. And maybe this one is the trickiest of all, because it hides in the details, in the everyday moments, in the little things you let slide without noticing. If you don't eliminate this last one, everything else starts to lose its power. Let's go for it. Lesson 31. Break the chain of comparison. Picture yourself on a go-kart track, engines revving, everyone ready to race. But instead of looking ahead, you're busy watching the other drivers. One zooms past on your right, another overtakes on your left. And while you're focused on everyone else instead of your own path, you miss the curve ahead and bam, you crash. That's exactly what constant comparison does. It distracts you, slows you down, and worst of all, makes you crash into yourself. Sound familiar? You wake up, open social media, and there it is. Someone in Bali, cocktail in hand, watching the sunset. But what don't you see? Maybe that person is sleeping in a crowded hostel with 20 strangers surrounded by bugs and has been sick all week. But none of that matters because your mind's already telling you their life is better than yours. And now even your morning coffee tastes bitter. One person who learned firsthand that comparison is the perfect recipe for unhappiness was Pete Best. Not ringing a bell? What if I told you he was the original drummer for the Beatles? Yep, he was there. Right before they exploded, before the whole world was singing their songs. But they kicked him out. He was pushed out of the band that went on to change music history. Imagine living with that, watching your old bandmates fill stadiums, become legends, while you sit at home wondering what went wrong. For years, Pete was trapped in that cycle of constant comparison. Every Beatles hit was a reminder of what his life could have been. But then came a turning point. Pete decided to let go of that invisible measuring stick. He stopped looking at the stage where he no longer stood and started building one of his own. He created a family, played music for the joy of it, without needing the fame, without needing to fill stadiums. And when asked if he was happy, he said yes. He hadn't been the fifth Beatle, but he'd found something you can't buy with gold records: peace. He understood what Marcus Aurelius wrote. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And if your thoughts are full of comparisons, you'll struggle to find happiness. Put yourself in this situation. After years, you finally go to one of those classic high school reunions. You show up, laugh a bit, catch up with people. But soon the stories start. One just got back from Japan, another brags about their big promotion, someone else shows off photos of their new house, and you smile, of course. But inside, that uncomfortable murmur starts up. That little voice comparing, measuring, calculating. Why haven't I done something like that? Where did I go wrong? And before you know it, you're not even present anymore. You're trapped inside your head, running through every decision, every missed opportunity. While everyone else keeps chatting, you drift away, not physically, but mentally. You end up in that dark place where everything feels like it's not enough. What could have been a moment to reconnect, to enjoy, turns into some internal interrogation where you never come out winning. If you want to break that invisible chain that ties you to comparison, start by trying a comparison detox. I'm not saying you need to delete all your social media forever, but try something radical for 3 days. Unfollow the accounts that only show perfect lives and stick to the ones that actually bring you value. You'll be amazed at how much quieter your mind gets. And when envy bites, do this. Stop. Acknowledge 3 things you have that maybe that other person doesn't. They don't have to be huge achievements. It could be your sense of humor, your talent for telling stories, or even your epic meme collection. That's wealth too. So here's my challenge for you. If you have to compare yourself, do it with who you were 6 months ago. Measure your own progress, not your distance from others. How were you back then? What things have you achieved that once felt impossible? Letting go of constant comparison is a quiet but powerful step toward inner peace. Because when you stop looking sideways and focus on your own path, you realize the only real competition is with yourself. And in that moment, the noise fades, and calm takes its place. Lesson 32. Cut ties with the life others chose for you. My friend, be honest with yourself for a moment. Is this life you're living really the one you chose? The career, the job, even the small day-to-day decisions, are they truly yours? Or are you being steered by someone else's expectations? Sometimes, without realizing it, we're living out the plan others designed for us, like actors playing a role in someone else's script. And meanwhile, that inner silence starts to scream. Because sure, you can have everything in order on the outside, but if you're not listening to yourself, if you're not choosing for you, you'll never find the peace you're looking for. Let me tell you the story of Adam Neumann, the founder of WeWork. You've probably heard of him for building a shared office empire that skyrocketed and then came crashing down. But his real story is less known and far more valuable. Adam grew up in Israel, in an environment where it was expected he'd follow a traditional, serious path. Maybe take over a family business or hold a respectable role in society. He even studied at a military academy, not because he wanted to, but because it was what everyone expected of him. But something inside him didn't fit. After a few failed attempts at businesses that never felt truly his, he discovered what really sparked his passion: creating communities, spaces where people could feel connected, feel at home. That's how WeWork was born. At its core, it was about bringing people together, creating places where they could grow alongside one another. But with success came pressure, outside expectations, and Adam ended up trapped in the image of the billionaire entrepreneur that the world wanted to see. He lost his way, and when everything exploded, when WeWork fell apart, Adam did something most people never dare to do. He listened to his inner voice again. Today, he stepped away from the spotlight and from everyone else's expectations. He focuses on more human projects. He creates residential communities where people not only share space, but share real experiences. Adam understood what Epictetus once said: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And if Adam could look at your life today, my friend, if he could see that you're following a path you never truly chose, he'd ask you the same question. Is this what you want, or is this what others decided for you? If you really want to find that peace we're searching for together in this video, you have to dare to quietly let go of the life that isn't yours. Here are 3 steps to get started. First, grab a pen and paper and write down the things you do just to please others. Be specific. Like those family dinners you always attend, even though they drain you. Or staying in that WhatsApp group that takes more energy than it gives just so you don't seem rude. And those drinks you have at night just so your friends won't call you boring? Write it all down, no filter. Then look at it straight on and ask yourself, if no one knew, if no one judged me, would I still be doing this? Second, gift yourself a moment just for you. Do something you love, even if it seems silly to everyone else. Watching bad movies in your pajamas on a Tuesday? Perfect. learning to play an instrument even if you're off key. Go for it. These small acts of rebellion are the first steps toward living a life that sounds like you. And third, think about this. How long will I be dead afterward? I know it sounds harsh, but it's freeing. If you really think about that, are you going to keep living just to please others? Choose what makes you feel alive now. Those who think they'll live forever can keep the worries, the guilt, and the fear. You can't build peace while living in someone else's blueprint. Only when you start making decisions that carry your voice, your rhythm, your essence, that's when the silence stops hurting and starts healing. Finding inner peace isn't about adding more. It's about letting go. About quietly eliminating everything that weighs you down and pulls you away from yourself. Every day gives you a new chance to silence what doesn't serve you, to clear space in your mind, in your soul, and come back to what really matters. Because true calm doesn't arrive when everything outside is perfect. It comes when you stop carrying what's unnecessary inside. Step by step, no rush, no noise. You start building that peace you so deeply deserve. If you've made it this far, drop me a comment. Without making noise, I begin to set myself free. They say those who stay until the end always find their reward, and you just did. So I invite you to subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who might need it. Click now on the videos you see on screen, because the journey is just beginning.